Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. You might be wondering, what is a jet propulsion laboratory person doing here? It's topical, I swear. So I'm Sasha Samochina. I'm the deputy lead of the Ops Lab. And what we do in my small little corner of NASA is we prototype software to try to transform mission operations. So what does that mean? Take something into out of research and development mode and actually imbue it into flight projects that go to space. If you're not familiar with JPL, we actually build only robotic missions. We don't do any astronaut stuff. We only do robots. If it has air, we don't care. Just kidding. We do care. Because I personally do work a lot with astronauts, doing augmented reality work, so kind of imbuing these new technologies. So the reason that I'm here is because we have a really interesting group of people on this panel trying to already go from growing something big to making a global change to having a smaller company try to grow and imbue themselves into a bigger kind of meaningful thing. So I'm going to moderate this conversation with the idea of software, with the idea of prototyping, but also I'm excited because I'm going to get to learn so much from these extremely talented people. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my panel. We have Sébastien Kopp, the co-founder of Veja. We have Matt Sheffer from Hudson Carbon. And we have Dominique Drakeford from Sustainable Brooklyn and Fibershed. Welcome. Excellent. Okay, so my first question is to Sébastien. How are you doing today?
Very well, and
Good.
yourself?
I'm fine, thank you. Having a great time. So you have the largest operation between all three panelists. We just saw we're gonna see maybe a video of your work in the Amazon rainforest and the power that you have in incentivizing good behavior and raising the value of the rainforest, keeping it alive in order to create a network in protecting it. So how does that expand in your work into cotton, for example? Especially around starting a prototype and then kind of growing that. So how have you done that in your work? Big question.
Yes. Can you repeat?
No.
No, just to get back a little bit, because I don't know, I think a lot of people don't know Veja on the audience. So Veja is a sneaker brand. We have been making shoes for 15 years. And when we started in 2004, we were 25 years old. And our goal was to deconstruct a sneaker, the production of a sneaker, and to go very up in the production chain to change step by step every step of the production. So what we did, we were a bit innocent and we didn't know a lot about how you made a sneakers, how was made a trainer, a shoe. So we chose to go to Brazil and to ask questions. We wanted to do a canvas sneaker. So the first question was, what is canvas? Canvas, it's cotton. And what is cotton? It's a plant that is, I think, almost 2% of the land, of the agriculture land in the world. And it's 30% of the pesticides used. So for us, replacing cotton, conventional cotton, by organic cotton was not an ecological act. It was normal to try to do something better. So we didn't know anything about cotton, so we went on field. We went to meet the producers. We went to understand how they were working. And the first talk was really interesting when they said, hope is what you do, or hope is in what you do, because to not know something, to not being an expert in anything, not being an expert in the sneaker, not being an expert in organic cotton, we went with our very innocent eyes, and we took the time to understand how it was working on field. So we met those producers of organic cotton in 2004, and we asked them what is the price of the cotton you're selling. And so we sit down with them and we calculated the price of their cotton, the price they should sell to not to survive through their crops, but to live and invest and live better with the price of the organic cotton. So we doubled the price of the cotton, and we made a contract with them. Of the first contract was 3 years. 3 years where we said the price of the cotton will be this. When you plant the seed, you will know how much you get when you sell a kilo. That's, for us, that's the principle of fair trade. To know the price of the final crop of the plant of the seed when you start. And so we did that with the cotton. We bought ourselves the 2 tons of organic cotton in 2004. And we did the same in Amazonia. We went in the forest. We met producers, rubber tappers, because our idea, which was a bit crazy, was to replace plastic in the sole of a sneaker by wild rubber from Amazonia. But our idea was just to replace synthetic petroleum-based plastic in the sole of a sneaker by a natural ingredient, by a more ecological ingredient. And by going to Amazonia, we discovered deforestation. We discovered the lives, the tough lives of the guys living in the forest, living by the forest. And after 1 or 2 years, we realized that the people we were working with, the rubber tappers, they could be the destroyers. They could destroy the forest, or they could save the forest. Or no, not save, but protect the forest. And we positioned ourselves as special clients, meaning we give a good value to the rubber that we buy.
So you were sort of incentivizing good behavior in 2 ways here. At the same time, you're trying to grow your company. You're getting all of this knowledge from a thing that you said no one was an expert in. And so you're both growing a company and both also trying to change the way that a culture kind of thinks about their work that's natural, which is very interesting.
But incentivizing means something I don't like. Because
okay, criticism accepted. It's in our panel.
No. That's not you, and that was written on the panel. So that's who wrote the panel, the title of the panel.
It wasn't me.
Céline,
so
how are
not
you?
Guilty.
No, for us, we're paying the fair price, the good price, the normal price for raw materials like organic cotton or wild rubber. That are, for us, extraordinary.
Sure.
So our thoughts since the beginning, we keep going up with the price we propose to the producers because step by step, years after years, we are realizing that they are doing more than an amazing job. It's difficult to transmit in 5 minutes,
Sure.
but
yeah.
the fights they are through...
I think it actually, not to interrupt, but I do think it ties into Matt's work quite well in terms of Hudson Carbon and what they're doing, and I think it's a pretty good time to maybe have Matt speak a little bit about Hudson Carbon and what you guys are doing over there.
Sure. Thank you,
We'll continue
Sasha.
this conversation afterwards. I just want everyone to introduce their work so we can kind of make a thread through this conversation.
Thank you, Sasha. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Matt Sheffer. I'm the managing director of Hudson Carbon, and Hudson Carbon is an agricultural research institute located on a 2,500-acre farm in upstate New York. And our work is very much dedicated to demonstrating the ecological benefits of regenerative agriculture and also sort of facilitating the adoption of these systems through developing innovative ecosystem service market infrastructure. And our work is very much motivated by a very glaring problem with the global agricultural economy, which is environmental impact is an externality. And that means billions of dollars every year go towards incentivizing, maximizing production of a very small number of commodities. And the result of that is food and fiber are artificially cheap, and the environment bears the brunt. So we are thinking about ways to incentivize the right kind of behavior on the land. And we're thinking of incentives as, bringing the environment into the economic equation, putting value on positive externalities and placing costs on negative ones. So carbon markets exist. There's cap and trade, which sort of facilitates carbon offsetting in the space of landfill methane capture and refrigerant destruction and things like that. But what we're looking at is figuring out a way to change the marketing of carbon offsets generated on land. The existing markets are the transaction is very abstract. There's really no connection to the land, connection to place, connection to the people who are doing the work on the ground. And they're treated like a bulk commodity, these offsets. They're packaged and sold at a price that is nowhere near enough to influence change on the land. So what we're trying to do is create an experience to connect farmers to climate-concerned citizens who want to support the generation of carbon offsets through regenerative ag. And so in this system, the key is the connection, in this marketplace, the key is the connection between the farmer and the consumer. And that's sort of the foundation of this marketplace that creates transparency. It creates a tangible, real link to the work being done on the ground. And we believe that will drive real demand for these offsets. So if we could skip ahead a little bit, I have some visual aids here. So the idea is, and to bring it into the context of the day, if you're a fashion brand and you're participating on this platform and you're sourcing your food, your fiber from regenerative farms across, this country or the globe, we're going global with this platform, and your suppliers are participating. If your customers are online or buying a garment at a store using Apple Pay, they can be led to this Hudson Carbon platform, and from a map, pick an acre of carbon offsets from the very same farm that produced the textile fiber that produced the garment that you just purchased. And before doing so, you'll have access to very visually rich, narrative-rich content that tells the story of this product that you just bought, and tells the story of the farmer on the land engaging in these regenerative practices that are maximizing the buildup of carbon in the soil and keeping it there. And that really, we really feel that connection and that consumer experience will really drive the engine of carbon sequestration on the land through regenerative agriculture. We are in the process of building this platform. In Q2 or Q3 of this coming year, we plan to sell 2,500 acres of offsets off our original research farm upstate, and then we plan on bringing in farm participants from all over the world to participate in this platform. And just to give you an idea of some rough numbers, depending on the system that you adopt, we expect to see 0.5 ton to 4 tons of carbon per acre per year. And because we're creating this kind of high-end premium user experience. At $100 a ton, that would create a price per acre for a farmer to be actually motivated to make the change on the land, to start bringing the environment into the equation and pulling carbon out of the atmosphere.
That's amazing. It's incredible to see those numbers, actually. Is that impressive? Thank you so much for sharing this. I think we got to move on to Dominique. She's actually representing two different places here. She's doing both Sustainable Brooklyn and Fibershed. So I'm excited to see you introduce it a little bit and tie it together for us so that we can have further discussion.
Yeah. How's everybody doing? All right. My name is Dominique Drakeford. I am a sustainable style and social justice influencer, but more importantly, I am one half of Sustainable Brooklyn. My partner gave the beautiful labor acknowledgement this morning. And Sustainable Brooklyn is an organization that bridges the gap between the mainstream sustainability space and targeted communities. We focus primarily on individual, meeting people where they're at, community, developing circular landscapes, and stakeholdership. And with stakeholders primarily, it's the culmination of diversity and equity and corporate social responsibility to really instill strategic solutions. Sustainable Brooklyn does a lot. If you don't know, now you know. One of the things we do is getting into the community, making community events accessible and free, and really creating a paradigm shift in participatory culture for our community. But we are most known for our programming. We have elemental symposiums, and we had we had earth and air last year, and this year we're gonna have fire in May. And ultimately, we completely disrupt the sustainability literacy space by placing Black and brown indigenous people of color at the forefront of conversation, at the forefront of activation, solutions, innovation, all of that shit, because thank you. See, y'all just disrupted my whole flow. Thank you, appreciate it. But yeah, we're really looking to decolonize the space in a very jazzy way, but also change the discourse and re-educate ourselves on the inherent ideology of what sustainability is supposed to look like. And that is having sustainable economies with Black and brown indigenous communities at the forefront of change. But this panel is called what does it mean to incentivize good behavior? And for us,
We might change the incentivize part per your comment.
What word do you like
I want
better?
to talk about that, but I want to have you continue to.
What word do you like better?
Yeah, Sebastian, what do you think?
Work normally.
You said what?
To work normally. To work in
To work normally.
in a
Okay.
decent way.
Normalizing.
Thank you.
Normalizing good behavior. And for us, I think that a big part of it is equitable partnerships with Black and brown indigenous communities. And I'd like to use Fibershed as a great case study. Does anybody know who Fibershed is? They're a California, yes. They're a California-based nonprofit organization that's been in existence for about 10 years. And they do a plethora of things, but they're really great at regenerative manufacturing projects and programs. And one thing I want to point out is their regional fiber manufacturing initiative. Again, this is one of many. And they came about this through life cycle assessments that they did at UC Berkeley, and they realized that carbon neutrality can't be achieved, or even just climate positivity can't be achieved without changing the paradigm of production and consumption. And so they're really pushing production, they're really pushing a focus on raw material production. And they're doing this with a plethora of pillars, obviously trying to mitigate fast fashion, building equitable community, obviously craftsmanship. But what I love is that they really hone in on creating circular paradigms that heal the soil and what they call soil to soil, which I love. I just can't emphasize how amazing this organization is. They're able to apply appropriate policy and technology that really meets the needs of the community throughout California. Oops. However, the founder, Rebecca, is so dope because she came to me understanding that there are gaps in regional policy, understanding that there is systemic legacies of exploitation, especially with regards to farming and land use and just agriculture in general. And so she was like, yo, Dom, what up? She didn't say this, but in my mind, she's like, Dom, what up? We gotta figure out this solution. Like, we've been in operation for 10 years, and I really want to infuse equity into our paradigm and into our system. So I'm like, okay, Rebecca, let's figure this out. So she invited me to the Wool and Fine Fiber Symposium. I believe it's the 5th annual. And I curated a presentation called The Root of Exploitation in American Land Use. And it was the first time, that the real nitty-gritty conversations of exploitation and colonial infrastructure with regards to land and agriculture was talked about. I mean, I'm standing in front of about 100 white farmers talking about this legacy so that we can not only create the building blocks for diversity and inclusion, but agency and stakeholdership. It has to lead to that next level. And so Rebecca and I have been creating this really good flow, and it's not just about one-off events. It's about really creating a partnership that's going to change the landscape of the work that she's doing. And so like I mentioned before, I'm here all about partnerships. I gotta go back, okay. I'm here all about partnerships. And at Sustainable Brooklyn, we're definitely ambassadors for equitable partnerships. And I just can't emphasize enough the importance of the marriage between Black and brown community activists, businesses, innovators, and land and corporate stakeholders. It has to be on everybody's agenda right now to marriage these two entities that are often, in a dichotomy. And I just want to quickly let you guys know there's hope, because small brands are starting to partner with larger corporations and entities. Fatra is just one example. Her company is genius in creating creative infrastructure around waste. And so not only is she a skilled craftsman, she has education, design creation, and is pushing that in spaces larger. Let me tell you guys, we are looking to scale up. Everybody has to create partnership. If you need a place to start, come to me, come to Whitney, come to Sustainable Brooklyn. We're a plethora of resources. I created a blog post last year, 47 badass women of color influencers apologetically changing the landscape of fashion. We are out there, and we are ready for healthy partnerships and relationships.
Yes.
And I just want to quickly, I'm gonna wrap it up, I promise you. I just want to quickly leave on 2 quotes. This is one that Rebecca from Fibershed sent me right before I was asked to be on this panel. I'll let you guys take a moment and read it, but it was such an organic quote, and I just want to pinpoint, I feel confident that there's a lot that we can do. Everybody in this room has to feel confident, because then that leads to taking responsibility, and then that leads to activation. And I'm gonna end it on Auntie Maya Angelou, who said, do the best you can until you know better, then when you know better, you do better. And we out.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I took all
Well.
the time.
Wow, quite the introductions. I feel like, do you guys have questions for each other? I mean, like, I feel like there's a thread here. It's amazing. But in terms of scaling, so you're just what you're talking about is like making actual global change. Let's do this on a bigger level. How do you see yourself working with companies like Sébastien and Matt's to like make that happen?
Well, first and foremost, I think larger companies, whether land-based or corporate stakeholders, there's a level of responsibility that has to be taken first. You have to be open to understanding that there's so much exploitation throughout the entire value chain, and even in terms of marketing and education and policy. So even taking that first step to being open to understanding that you have to completely shift or take a baby step in shifting your paradigm, because there's a lot of brands and organizations and initiatives that have been doing the work, especially those who are on the front lines and who have substantiated the idea of sustainability to begin with. So opening up to understanding different perspective is number one.
Absolutely. So how do you deal with that, Sébastien, when you're working in the Amazon? How do you explain, first of all, what the work is, and then get the people to kind of understand and be part of the process, and then how did you grow that in the way that you have?
No, it's much broader than the Amazon, because the Amazon part of Veja is one part, but what we created in 2005 is organic cotton, Amazon, the factory in southern Brazil, where we made social audits to see how the workers are paid, treated, where they live, where they sleep, how many hours they work, 40 hours a week. When you compare to China, it's in China it's 70, 80 hours a week. We choose a warehouse close from Paris that was not doing sneakers at all, and the warehouse was an NGO where they take people with big social problems like jail, alcohol, etc., and they take them back to society. So they give them a job, they help them to find a house, they help them to pay their taxes, etc. And so we started with them, and it was like a small space. Today it's a huge space, and there is 60 to 80 people working in this NGO, and we are their partners. So they do the whole online shop of Veja today, because we grew those last years, and they're taking care of the online shop for the whole world. But it's true what you say. You can do a nice ecological product. You can do a nice socially balanced and economically balanced product, and to be an asshole. And to be like a boss who doesn't give a shit. So this we realized in 2007-8 that you can do nice things up front, but that it's the whole company, the whole organization that has to change. And so that's why we started applying to ourselves what we did for the product. Meaning we changed the electricity company that we use for our office, our stores, and we passed through a green energy company. If you know one in New York, we're interested, or in the US. We capped the wages. We gender diversity. The color of the skin is really important to us. So it's not a speech. We don't care about speaking about it, but we do it at the office. And we do it a bit coldly, meaning like you take the first 10 wages of Veja, I think you have 7 women. And it's important to compare what you speak about, what you talk about so well in conferences, to reality, which is which is I was talking about it with some guys in the room. I don't believe anymore in sustainability. For me, it became for a long time it has been an empty word, and we believe much more in reality, in actions, in what you do, and yes, it's I'm a bit fed up of speaking, of speeches, of words, and for me, the urgency today is to act and then to speak.
I think that is why we are here. Hopefully, actionable items after hearing a talk like this. I always wonder, what do you go home and do? Do you change something? Do you start a movement? Like, do you join a movement? So with that, I guess, Matthew, if you could talk a little bit more about Hudson Carbon, because people are here from New York, they live here, how do they get involved in your company? How do we help you make this global impact that you're trying to make?
Well, I think education is key. And I mean, one of the biggest issues, and I alluded to this in talking about how regular conventional carbon markets work, is the idea of carbon offsetting is inherently abstract. The idea that you're paying for somebody to, through their agricultural practices, pull carbon out of the atmosphere is kind of it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, but it's important, and it's important to changing the way we do agriculture in this country and abroad, because, like I said before, the true cost of food in the supermarket and the true cost of fiber in the store is not reflected in what you pay for it because of the global economic model. And the reason why it's so hard for small farmers to exist is because because of the prices they have to charge for their products. And if they're farming in a way that is also cleaning up our environment, then we want to support that as best we can. So that's what we're trying to do here with this marketplace. We're trying to foster the connection between people who are concerned about the climate and those farmers and land managers on the ground doing that real work of managing the land in a way that is pulling carbon out of the atmosphere. So I guess the short answer is just follow us and keep abreast of what we're doing. And like I said, we're going to launch this platform in the late spring, early summer of 2020, selling offsets off of our farm. And we're very much looking for partners to help spread this idea and help popularize this marketplace. So.
I think I want to tie it back into education once more with everyone. I think something that I do often, and it's like a one-person crusade of sorts, is to just educate the young people, right? So I do a lot of talking at elementary schools. They always ask the craziest questions that are so hard to answer. They're like, how many constellations do you know? I'm just like, oh man, what? What is that question? So how much of your companies how much of your initiative is to reach out and educate not only children, but adults? I think that's one of the most important things. And talking can be cheap, but I think when you do it to young kids, it sticks with them. And it's so important, I think, as part of a company to have that as being an initiative.
You take that one.
The heartbeat of our organization is based on education. I think it started with us having to be clear that this whole sustainability shithole is about understanding that the root of it is a colonial construct. And so with that, we've had to educate not only ourselves, our community, as well as corporations and different stakeholders that the primary mechanisms of the system is education that's feeding the system of exploitation and sacrifice zones, is education, is marketing, and it's public policy. So being able to educate specifically across those primary pillars to get to the root of the issue, but also figure out how to activate change on our ground in our local community and at large for planetary health, it's an ongoing F-word cycle. It's an ongoing cycle, and because it's been so indoctrinated, the sort of this false understanding of sustainability has been indoctrinated into our culture, we have to constantly push and re-educate folks on the reality of the situation, especially with regards to racism, because that is at the heart of it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the answer I was wanting to hear. It's amazing. When you said planetary health, that's just like, it's funny. I'm here on behalf of myself. I do work at JPL, but the thing that we provide to people for free are data that tells you that the planet's not doing well. And what you do with that data is a change you have to make every day. And it's just really amazing to be on stage with 3 people that are at the heartbeat of a lot of this kind of step-by-step. It's going to be a slow process, but we're going to get there, right? Matthew, did you have something you wanted to add to the education? No? Okay. Well, I think we're just about at our limit. I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for letting me moderate this.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited for the rest of the conference. Thank you.